Hey guys, Bob Brian here, and welcome to my third video of my channel. Today I'm gonna read you a book of Ruth throughout chapters from 1 to 4. Okay. Now, according to my studies, this book is about loyalty, redemption, and God's providence and relationship. Um, According to this book is written by Samuel later in the next two books, for First and Second Samuel. Okay. This is likely written around 1000 BC, during or after the region of King David, whose genealogy is central of the story to the story. Um, the original audience was likely the Israelites during the time of monarchy, as Ruth highlights the lineage of King David. Now, this was intended to show God's faithfulness and inclusiveness, emphasizing the importance of loyalty and kindness. Okay. Um. Before I start reading the chapter, I'm gonna read you an introduction. So here's the introduction. The Book of Ruth is named after the leading character, whose story is told here. It may have been written during the reign of David, whose ancestry is traced in the final verses of his great-grandfather Boaz, whose wife is Ruth. That's in my study guides. Um, the story begins with the Israelite couple who moved to Moab during a famine in Canaan. The husband and his two sons died, leaving the mother, Naomi, along with her two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. Now, Naomi decided to move back to Israel, and Ruth insists on going back with her. Back in Israel, they look to their relative Boaz for help, and Ruth finally marries Boaz. Now, the royal family of King David and the Messiah, Jesus Christ, came for their family. Okay, so according to this, it teaches about love and devotion. And also, teaches about God's concern about everyday's needs, and that He's working out His plans for salvation. So here are the outlines of contents. Chapter 1, verse 1 through 22 tells Naomi's departure from Israel and her return. Chapter 2, verse 1 throughout chapter 3, verse 18 tells about the welcome of Ruth to Israel, or Bethlehem. And throughout chapter 4, verse 1 through 22 tells the marriage of Ruth and Boaz. According to this, chapter 1 includes Naomi and Ruth return to Bethlehem after the death of their husband. Chapter 2 shows Ruth's work at the fields of Boaz, who shows her kindness. 3 was a plan for Naomi for Ruth to seek Boaz as her redeemer. And 4, as Boaz redeems Ruth and marries her, she became a great grandmother of David. Before we're gonna get to the story, I'm gonna tell you the characters that's in this book. Okay, so Ruth is a Moabite widow who showed loyalty to her. My writing my writing is very terrible, but I'm trying to read it. Okay, I'm trying to read this. Mother-in-law. Okay, mother-in-law Naomi, and becomes the ancestor of King David. If I flip this page, there's gonna be more stuff right here. On this side, it tells book number 9, First Samuel. So this one right here is on Ruth. Naomi is Ruth, Israelite's mother-in-law, who lost her husband and sons and returned to Bethlehem in grief. So they're in grief because they lost the lineage, lost the children and her husband. Now Boaz is a wealthy and kind relative to Naomi, so he redeemed Ruth and married her. Okay. I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to read you this book. Okay. First, let's start with chapter 1. Okay. So here's how it's go. Okay. Each chapter, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to read each of those key details and imagery of symbolism. So yeah. So let's start. Chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So the man from Bethlehem, Judah, together with his wife and two sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech. The wife's name was Naomi, and the names of the two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephraith from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her two sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpha and the other Ruth. Out of there, they lived for about 10 years. Both Mahlon and Chilion also died. Naomi was left without her two sons and her daughter. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her two daughters-in-law, she left the place where she has been living and set out on the road that were taken back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the homes of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept out loud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and they gave birth to sons, would you wait till they grow up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hands have returned against me." After this, they wept out loud again. Then Orpha kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God and my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be ever so severely, even if death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped arguing her and urging her. So the two women went on till they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the woman exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty had made my life very bitter. But I went away full, because the Lord brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon you." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as a barley harvest was beginning. Okay, so Elimelech, so Naomi, Elimelech's wife, bore two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, and they also married the two Moabite women named Orpah and Ruth. Okay. I noticed on so here's what I noticed. Okay, on verse 20 and 21, according to this on Naomi means pleasant, because she was pleasant with her husbands and sons. Now her name is Mara, because it means bitter. So because she was bitter that the Lord brought misfortune upon her. Okay. Now on C, the Almighty, it's basically Hebrew Shaddai, which is also in verse 21. So now for the afflicted, or as testified against. Now it will now it will be different sometimes. Really, that's all. Let's see here. Okay, so here it is. Loyalty and faithfulness. Ruth's devotion to Naomi is a central theme, demonstrating loyalty in relationship, family, and faith. Now I like that really. Now I really like that because Ruth was really determined. And honestly, in my opinion, Christians who is watching it should be determined to turn themselves to Christ because really, like I said throughout my shorts around John 15 verse 9, as the Father loved me, I have loved you, and I remain in my love. That's what Jesus said because God loved His Son. Okay, and if Jesus, okay, and Jesus loves you, and we loved Him, He wants to remain in His love. Okay. So chapter 2. Let's read chapter 2, guys. Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth and Moab said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grains behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out into the field and began to glean behind the harvester. As it turned out, she was working in the field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Just then, Boaz arrived in Bethlehem and greet the harvester. "The Lord be with you, the Lord be with you," they answered. Boaz asked the overseer of the harvester, "Who does that young woman belong to?" The overseer replied, She is a Moab who came back from Moab from Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheep behind the harvester." She came to the field and has remained there from morning until now, except for a short rest in the shelter. So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the woman who worked for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along up the woman. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whether you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the man has filled." At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes? Has you noticed me, a forager?" Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in a homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. But the Lord repaid you for what you have done, and you be richly awarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Just a quick reminder, the reason why they say the Lord God of Israel is because during that time people were worshiping other gods and false prophets and false idols, which makes sense according to the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not turn themselves into false idols. It makes sense though. "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my lord," she said. "You have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants." At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar." When she sat down with the harvester, he offers her some roasted grains. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men, "Let her gather among the sheaves and don't reprimand her. Even pull out some stalks for her from the bundle, leaving for her to pick them up. Don't rebuke her." So Ruth gleaned in the fields until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. Now ephah is probably around 30 pounds or 13 kilometers. She carried it back to town. Her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought it and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one whose place she had been working. The name of the man I worked for today is Boaz," she said. "The Lord bless him," Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. "He has not stopped showing his kindness to a living in the dead." She added, "That man is our close relative. He is one of our guard and redeemer." Then Ruth the Moab said, "He even said to me, 'Stay with my workers till they finish harvesting my grain.'" Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It will be good for you, my daughter, to go with the woman who worked for him, because in someone else's field you might be harmed." So Ruth stayed close to the woman of Boaz to glean until the barley and wheat harvests were finished, and she lived for her mother-in-law. Okay, so let's talk about when they were traveling Ruth met Boaz, which he is actually a close relative, yet he was a part of the clan of Elimelech. and and he told her to even stay at his field to glean and harvest the grains, the barleys, and the wheat. Okay, and not only that, he even told her to stay with women because the men will at least do the work. Okay. Um, let's hear God's God's providence. Even in difficult circumstances, God is working behind the scenes to provide for Ruth and Naomi, showing His care for all people, including foreigners. Now this now this makes sense though. That Ruth did say that Boaz saw and noticed her a forager, which makes sense though because Ruth was a Moabite woman, yet travels to Bethlehem, Judah, or yeah, it was Judah. Yeah, it's Judah. And and well, no. Um, let's continue on chapter 3. One day, Ruth, the mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose woman you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight you will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was good spirits, when he went over to lay down at the far ends of a grain pile, Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, someone startled a man, and he turned. It was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am the servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corners of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger man, whether rich or poor. Now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is closer related than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good, let him redeem you. But if he's not willing, as sure as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." So she laid at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could recognize it. And he said, "No one must know that the woman came to the threshing floor." He also said, "Bring me the shawl you are wearing, and hold it out." When she did so, she poured the 6 measures of barley and placed in a bundle on her. Then he went back down. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her, and added, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, 'Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today." Okay, that's pretty. That was pretty interesting. That was pretty interesting. Actually, that was pretty interesting. Let's read here. Redemption, the concept of the kinsman redeemer is key as Boaz redeems Ruth and Naomi's family line, foreshadowing Christ's Christ's fate as the ultimate redeemer of humanity. That is a pretty good thing, actually. That is pretty good, actually. Okay. Oh, let me charge my phone real quick. Crap. I got. I got 42 minutes, so I'm good. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now let's read on chapter 4. Meanwhile, Boaz went to the town gate and sat down there just as the garden redeemer he had mentioned came along. Boaz says, "Come over here, my friend, sit down." So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of a town and said, "Sit here," and they did so. Then he said to the guardian redeemer, "Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling a place of land that belonged to a relative Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter of your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has a right to do it except you, and I am next in line." "I will redeem it," he said. Then Boaz says, "On the day you buy the land from Naomi, you will also acquire Ruth, the Moab, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of her dead with his property." At this, the guardian redeemer said, "Then I cannot redeem it because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do." Now, in earlier times in Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandals and gave it to the other. This was a method of legalizing transaction in Israel. So that's how was the economy doing. So the guardian redeemer said to Boaz, "Buy yourself." And he removed his sandals. Then Boaz announced to the elders, all the people, "Today you are witness that I have brought you from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Keilah, and Mahlon. I also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as my wife, in order to attain the name of his property, so that his name would not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Today you are witnesses." Then the elders of all the people at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming to your home like Rachel and Leah," mentioned around Genesis 30s, "who together built the family of Israel," means Jacob throughout Genesis also. "May you have an Ephrath and be famous in Bethlehem through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman. May your family be like that of Perez, whose time are born of Judah." So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The woman said to Naomi, "Praise be the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughters-in-law who loved you, who loved you and who was better than you to get 7 sons who had given him birth." Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for her. The woman living there said, "Naomi has a son," and they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. The genealogy of David. Here he is. This then is the family of Perez. Here we go. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram the father of Abinadab. Abinadab the father of Nahshon. Nahshon the father of Solomon. Solomon the father of Boaz. Boaz the father of Obed. Obed the father of Jesse. And Jesse the father of David. Wow, can't believe that. That was that was a lineage of King David. Can't believe it. Here it is. Inclusivity of God's plan. Ruth, a non-Israelite, became part of God's covenant people, showing that God's grace extended beyond Ithic land. Ithic? I really don't know what it means. So yeah, that was it. Can you believe it? So here are the imagery. Okay, here the harvest fields around Ruth chapter 2. It symbolizes the provision in God's blessings as Ruth finds favor in Boaz's fields, which makes sense though because Ruth said to Boaz that he found favor in her eyes and noticed her as a forager. Kinsman redeemer. Now Boaz represented the role of a redeemer, which foreshadowed Christ's redeeming work. It makes sense though, since he redeemed Ruth and she became his wife. Now for marriage on Ruth 4. The union of Ruth and Boaz symbolizes God's covenant faithfulness and let's desire to desire to include all people in his plans of salvation. Now that was a story right there. Can you believe that? Oh guys, if you guys watching this, I really hope you love this video. For people who really wants now for people who wants to comment on my video, I really can't do that because for no reason it won't let me. So I'm gonna end this video right now. Okay. Like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye.